right. Thank you, Lauren. I didn't know my bio was so long, but I'm going to start off by sharing my experience at growing up in a domestic violence household. And the person that you see here today, I was not that person. I had to go through a personal journey in order to get here. And I share this journey to motivate others and to let them know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I always start off, well, most of the time, setting a pace where you get the idea of what kind of environment I grew up in. And part of my healing is I healed a lot through poetry. So the name of the poem that I'm going to start off with is Through the Eyes of a Teenager. The police came to our house today. What will our neighbors say? My stepdad hit my mom today, and all his kids are really scared. You'd think he'd think of how we felt, but he doesn't really care. From day to day, we never know what will set him off. He starts by telling her how dumb and stupid she is to be his wife. Is this the reason that she lets him ruin all our lives? He has all the money, so we must depend on him. He buys everything, and I'm so sick of his cheap taste. You'd think he'd ask her what she wants, but to him it's such a waste. Sometimes when we're at dinner, I sit nervously by. My stomach is so nervous, I want to find a place to hide. Tonight is Friday night, and he's on the town again. Why in the hell did he get married? His disrespect is such a sin. He'll return in the morning, and the fighting will begin. She says today we're leaving. She says it many times before, but for some unknown reasons, we never make it to the door. Our lives return to normal, but we're deeply hurt inside. For we know by next weekend, the police will come again. And I ask you to just sit with that for a moment, because I was that little girl at 11 years old that was living that life. And what I would do is I would go and look at houses, and I wanted to move at 11. So I would always envision myself in my own house. And, with quiet, no arguing, no fussing, no cursing, all of that. And what happened is I finally got around the age of 12, I got up the nerve to talk to my mother. And I said, what are you doing with this guy? He's such a waste of time. He doesn't respect you. He goes out with other women. He calls you out of your name. He calls you stupid. What do you see in this dude? I said, one thing that you can do, if you leave him, you can get all of his money, because we have 14 kids and we have 14 kids in the family. And I was smart enough at the time, because when you grow up in that kind of environment, for me, I was the oldest girl. So I was kind of mature, or I was very mature for my age. So I was giving her advice on what she needs to do. It's kind of funny when I look back on it now, but I was really serious. And I saw the look on her face when I told her that, and the tears start coming in her eyes. And to me, a 12-year-old, I'm saying to myself, if you tell people the truth, it hurts them. So I shut down. And the little girl that used to talk all the time and share her feelings, she didn't exist anymore. She did not exist. And so what happened after that is I went to college. I did good for the first 2 years, but I'm still dragging around this bag of pain and trauma. So my self-esteem was still low. and I continued to make bad choices. I got kicked out of college because I stopped going to class. And I started fulfilling what I had heard, that you're never going to amount to anything, you don't have nothing going on, you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough. And so that became my mantra in my own mind because I didn't see the value in myself at all, period. So fast forward, I'm going through life again with this bag of junk, so to speak, just dragging it along. So I get into relationships that are reminiscent of my past. They were people that were unavailable and people and men that didn't treat me the way I deserved to be treated. But in the back of my mind, I kept telling myself, you're a good person. People like you. Because when you're in those kind of situations, you have to draw on some value in yourself. It doesn't fix everything, trust me, but it kind of keeps you with that hope that one day I'm going to shine. So, going through that, I worked in community services. And I worked in community services, and I always worked with women because I always felt that women were the backbone of the family. And if she feels good, the family feels good. And plus the fact that I love my mother, she eventually got her master's degree in special education. So I got a lot of motivation from her. But the child is resentful because I was resentful. I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be in a real home where people loved each other and they showed respect for one another. So, going through my process and my journey, I eventually, as I said, I always worked in community services, mental health, you name it, homelessness, pretty much any kind of woman kind of process because I felt like women needed to heal, and I was healing myself because the work that we do, it heals us too. So then I came across a job. It was working in a battered women's shelter as a crisis counselor. So I said, okay, I don't have nothing to do. Let me try this. I haven't tried this, and I let me give this a shot. So I started working there, and the first week on the job, I took off sick. And I said, well, what's going on here? You know, at the time, I didn't know what was going on. It began to progress. I started disliking women. I kept started saying, God, I can't stand them. But I was professional. I knew how to separate the line. I knew on the job that I had to act a certain way, but I was getting more and more depressed. So what happened is I started putting my key in the door to the shelter and I got an instant headache. So what it was transforming the trauma and stuff was being mitigated through my body. I started feeling it. And one day I was working at the shelter and I broke out crying and I couldn't stop crying. I just couldn't. There was no way. And so I immediately jumped in my car, took myself to Kaiser, and was told that I was suffering from job related stress. But that was only the tip of the iceberg. And I went to therapy. I took off of the job for a year. That was just the beginning of my rebirth. It was through that pain that I found out what was wrong with me. I had suppressed my domestic violence environment. It's like it never happened. But God, Spirit, brought me to that job so that I could heal. So through therapy, through my own recognizing my own symptoms because I had some experience with mental health, and just nurturing the little girl that had been broken as a child. And that's why I believe that I do this work. I'm going to diverse briefly. I do the work because I don't think parents realize the damage that it does to children. and they carry it through their adulthood all the way, unless they have insight enough to make the change. So after going through therapy and still working on myself and everything, tragedy hits. Because one thing I want to tell you, just because you're on the right road, that doesn't mean that road's going to be easy. My brother was killed. My girlfriend was killed from domestic violence. My niece was killed. So tragedy was following me everywhere. And I kept asking God, I kept saying, what is this about? Why do I have to go through this? I figured I had gone through enough as a child. I should have it easy now. But when you make a decision to grow, you're still going to have obstacles. You're still going to have obstacles because I think that you have to keep working through those obstacles to come to the finish line, to win in any way that you establish as winning for you, because everybody has their own interpretation of winning. So as a result of that, that's why I do the work that I do with women. I work with women, I work with children, I always work with families, and I never knew why. And I didn't want to do it. I did not want to do it. I kept fighting against it. But what I do know is when God or spirit or whoever you believe in sends you on a journey, you don't have a choice. You just do it, and that's why I do what I do, because I don't want another child to go through that situation. One thing that right now, the lady that you see before you, I have confidence in myself. I set boundaries with people. I love who I am. I know my self-worth. And I know that any decision that I make is going to influence me. So I have control of my emotions. I don't say I don't get triggered. I know what my triggers are, okay? That's the thing about winning. You got to know what your triggers are. You have to accept the good with the bad within yourself. That's how you win. That's how you overcome. And don't accept anything less. Like, I'm not around people that don't bring out the best in me. I eliminate them. If it's a family member, I limit my time and I let them know, hey, this is not what I'm going to accept. I'm such a fun-loving person. They're going to be the person to lose out. I won't. That's the way I look at it, because that's how good I feel about myself. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna end right now. But I always love poetry. I have a book of poems called Splashes Through Life, because I got these little splashes of my past and the people that I work with. So I'm gonna end with Maya Angelou's poem. It's called Alone. Lying thinking last night how to find myself a home where water is not thirsty and bread loaf is not stone. I came upon one thing, and I don't believe I'm wrong, that nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone. Nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. There are some millionaires with money that they can't use. Their wives run round like banshees. Their children sing the blues. They've got expensive doctors to cure their hearts of stone. But nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone. Nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. Now, if you listen closely, I'll tell you what I know. Storm clouds are gathering. The wind is gonna blow. The race of man is suffering, and I can hear the moan. Because nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone. Nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. Ashe, And thank you very much for inviting me. It's been such a pleasure.